What it do, people? It's the MMA guy. Today, just gonna do a video ranking the UFC weight classes as we head into 2026. So, just so that we know where they stand now, and maybe reevaluate to see how this evolve and if these weight classes stay the same. Maybe I'll update it after the first quarter, maybe middle of the year. We'll see. Uh, when it makes more sense. Obviously, there needs to be some move for it to be interesting again. So the first weight class, the least interesting UFC weight class right now, is the heavyweight division. Um, I mean, we have a very good champion in Tom Aspinall, very cool champion, very entertaining champion in Tom Aspinall. We have a good contender in Cyril Gahn now. But the problem is that he's the only interesting contender. We have Volkov, who didn't look too good against Gelton Almeida. We have Gelton Almeida, who didn't look too good against Volkov. You have Sergey Pavlovich, who went from being Kratos to being a Taco. You know, he's like grappling and it's just that he's not that great of a grappler. So he does these lay and pray type of performances against good strikers like Rosenstruik, Waldo Cortez Acosta. Those are good wins, but he's not winning impressively. And then he got volume strike by Volkov. So he's kind of in this far from the title. Even though he's number 3 ranked, it's hard for him to fight um, up in the rankings because there's pretty much no one, and he's lost to Volkov and Tom Aspinall already. So I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe they can new. I know that right now they're investing in new contenders. You have guys like Steve Asplund who look good in his last fight. You have you know Tay Texan Texera. That's like an up and comer. You have Mario Pinto, who's an up and comer, who's going to be a very interesting contender. So I feel like right now we have potential in the heavyweight division. But yeah, nothing too crazy for now. So we'll see how that goes. Next division, the second most uh, uninteresting division is the light heavyweight division. I mean, you have good fighters, good prospect. No, more so good current fighters. The problem is that you don't have many prospects. I mean, you have Zhang Mingyang, who got fraud checked by Johnny Walker. You have it's especially when you look down at these rankings. Just to come back to heavyweight, like look at the bottom of the top 15. When you look at number 13, you look at Mick Parkin, who lost to Marcin Tybura. Has one KO. Besides that, he's a decision merchant. Taito Ivasa, who's on something like a 3, 4, 5, 6 fight losing streak. I don't remember. But a huge losing streak. Getting finished every single time, pretty much. Except against Rosenstruik or something. Next, you have Shamil Gaziev, who just got put out by Waldo Cortez Acosta. Lost to Rosenstruik before. Not a crazy good contender. But not so bad. Marcin Tybura, who got flatlined, isn't looking all that good ever. He's getting old. Ante Delia, who just got KO'd. You have Derek Lewis, who's on like a resurgence of some sort. But is he really a title challenger that interests us? I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of people talk about it. But Derek Lewis isn't a guy that I want to see at the top of a division. Because it's a bit embarrassing for UFC. You're telling me that Derek Lewis is skilled enough to be a top contender in the UFC? And then Sergey Spivak, who's a deer in headlight on the feet. Gelton Almeida, deer in headlight on the feet. Waldo Cortez Acosta, solid fighter, interesting prospect, interesting contender overall. You have like high caliber fighters that you have in the UFC heavyweight division. I would go Waldo Cortez Acosta, Sergey Pavlovich, Volkov, Cyril Gahn, and I would include Almeida and Curtis Blade in that. Those are the guys. Derek Lewis is, it's interesting to see him fight. And he has a good matchup with Cortez Acosta. So, anyhow, next we have, with the light heavyweight division, you have Nikita Krylov, who's getting smoked left and right. Johnny Walker, who is not an interesting prospect. Rakic, who's on a 3-fight losing streak. Bogdan Guskov, who's going tit for tat with 42-year-old Jan Blachowicz. So it kind of tells you, that's your next prospect. A guy who's going tit for tat with a guy who was a champion with, who got to the top of the division. But, if that's one of the best prospect, and he's going out with, he's going on, he has very close fights with 42 years old versions of those guys that you saw at the top while he's in his prime. It's kind of like, maybe the division isn't, this is a division that's not really evolved since the old days. Dominic Reyes got absolutely smoked by Carlos Solberg, looked terrible in that fight. Volkan Ozdemir, who looked good his last fight, but Volkan Ozdemir, he's going to get KO'd next time he fights a high-level fighter. Jamal Hill, he's got 50-45 by Khalil Roundtree. Not that interesting. Azamat's interesting. Jan's too old to be interesting, and he's way too high in the rankings as well. Khalil is cool, but we know he's never touching a belt. He's been losing way too much to these kind of guys like Pereira, Yuri. Before that, he has losses as well. We have Carlos Solberg, who's an interesting prospect, but he's also 35, so it's not like he's going to be a prospect for more than a couple years, and he's the most interesting prospect purely. And Kalaev Magomed, who's pretty good, pretty cool, is 33. Has a win over Pereira, has a loss over Pereira, has good wins against Jan more in his prime and everything. So you have Magomed, who's holding it down. Magomed, Yuri, Alex, and Carlos Solberg are interesting. Azamat Mirzakhanov as well. That's pretty much it. I mean, I do love watching Khalil Roundtree fight because of his fighting style. It's not a crazy good division. To be fair, I kind of like Volkan Ozdemir as well. I think he has pretty solid ends, and I think a cool fighter to watch. Guskov as well, but those are not promising prospects, or not a prospect at all in Ozdemir. For the featherweight division, that's a division I love. The only problem is that they're ruining the title picture every time, and they have such bad rankings. Yair Rodriguez, way too high. Diego Lopez getting a second title shot is idiotic. It makes the title not really interesting. Volkanovski defending against the same guy while you have other prospects that should be fighting for it, like Lerone and Movzar. Yair Rodriguez is still in the top 5, so we know that whenever they need someone in the top 3, that's gonna they need a guy to get inside the top 3, an industry plant kind of. They're gonna make him fight Yair Rodriguez. It's obvious. This guy does not hang with any of those guys. Next, you have, if you look at the age of the fighters in the featherweight division, you have Alexander Volkanovski, who's 38, Lerone Murphy, who's 35. I know he's a prospect, but he's still 35. He's not going to be there much longer. Aljamain Sterling, 35, always talking about retirement if he doesn't get title shot, this, and that. Annoying. He's not a guy that's, moving the needle much. So you have... And then you have Yair, who's cooked. We know he has no future in the UFC. He's not going to be a future. He's not getting better at, takedown defense. He's just going to get mauled by any prospect. You have Arnold Allen is interesting, but he's always getting hurt and bloody, and he doesn't fight. He fights once every year and a half, 2 years. And now he's fighting Gene Silva soon. That's not going to be good. Gene Silva's a plant. He's getting these rankings upward. Cool guy. But so you have Arnold Allen, who's who's an interesting prospect. I mean, you have Movzar. I love Movzar. Very nice to watch. Lerone as well, but Lerone all on the older side of things. Arnold Allen, younger, but always hurt, so rarely fights. Youssef Zalal, pretty cool, but beat Josh Emmett. Steve Garcia is cool, but we still haven't seen him fight like a high level opponent. And he's already ranked number 8 in the division. So that should tell you something. Brian Ortega, terrible fighter at the top of the rankings. Gene Silva, very cool prospect. Josh Emmett, way too old, should retire. I don't know how you can still have that guy ranked. He's been losing and losing and losing. Patricio Pitbull, very uninteresting old prospect because he was in Bellator before, but he's losing. He lost to Yair Rodriguez. That should tell you how bad he is. Kevin Vallejos, very interesting prospect. So we have Kevin Vallejos, Gene Silva, Youssef Zalal. We have promising names, but everything else. Oh, Steve Garcia as well is pretty. He's. I know he's a good fighter, but damn, Steve Garcia is not that interesting. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Yeah, I'd love to see Kevin Vallejos maybe. I'm not gonna call a fight here. So yeah, cool division. Clouded by too many OGs and OGs wanting title shots and uninteresting fighter in between that makes it a little bit for me. Next we have and Volkanovski is one of my favorite champion for sure. Favorite fighter of all time. One of my favorite. So next, I have the middleweight division, who's in a bit of the middle. They have cool prospects. They have fairly okay rankings. But, I mean, when you look at those guys, you look at Amzat. Amzat's a good champ, but he's going to be very inactive. Dricus Duplessis just got completely molded. So, I still want to see Dricus fights and still believe in him. But it's just like, it's a little bit less interesting now that he's not a 3-title defense champ, but he's a guy who got absolutely molded. Nassourdine Imavov, cool, but we know he's going to get smoked by Hamzat, so that's a little bit uninteresting. Sean Strickland, his fighting style is super boring. He's only like a personality because he's racist and he beats up streamers here and there. Anthony Hernandez, cool prospect. Very cool prospect. Brendan Allen, he's one of those guys, got a good win, but no one thinks, oh yeah, Brendan Allen's getting the title soon, man. So, low-level fighter in the top 5. Israel Adesanya is on a 3-fight losing streak. Caio Borralho, interesting prospect, but just got 49-46 by Imavov. So I'm not sure where he's going to stack in that division, and he's quite a bit older than Imavov, if I remember correctly. He's not like that much of a prospect. Rainer the Ritter had a terrible last performance. Before that, good win streak. But yeah, that makes you think like he's not coming. He doesn't have momentum right now. Whitaker on a big losing, like on a 2-fight losing streak right now. He's looking older, he can't maintain the pace of a 5-round fight. He's having trouble with his cardio and everything. Not interesting anymore. Jared Cannonier, uninteresting, completely uninteresting at this point. Michael Venom Page, kind of interesting, but also 38, 39 years old. Not really a serious contender. It's a little bit of a... Also, how the hell is Michael Venom Page and Jared Cannonier? How the hell is Jared Cannonier above Michael Venom Page? I know they're both 10-10, but how do you even make that? Like, why isn't Michael Venom Page 10 and Jared Cannonier 11? Anyhow, Roman Dolidze, completely uninteresting. Fluffy, completely smoked him. Before that, he had a close fight with Vettori, who's losing to everyone. Costa's on a resurgence, so that's interesting. But he's fighting Dolidze next, so he's going to go up just one spot. That's my diagnostic for this division. Next, we have the flyweight division. And now those are starting to be like the good divisions. Flyweight is the least good of the good division. But you have a guy like Kyoji Horiguchi, that's interesting. Tim Elliott just won a fight. We'll see what happens with him next. You have a couple guys like Brandon Moreno and Brendan Royval who were like number one to like championship fight, not necessarily gatekeepers, but up there. And now they are going, they're being replaced by Manel Kape and Tatsuro Taira. It feels like it just has and Joshua Van who replaced Pantoja, but obviously because of the injury. You know, you have great contenders here. You have guys who have replaced the old watch, and now it's made the division very interesting. You have guys like Charles Johnson, who's always delivering. Tagir Lambeka was a solid number 12 spot. You know, anyone who's gonna fight Tagir for that spot deserves to be and beat him. Is gonna definitely deserve to be there. So that's a solid fighter already. Alex Perez, solid test for anyone. Always a tough out, except if you're Pantoja, you run through those guys. Um, Steve Erceg, Steve Erceg versus Tim Elliott. I think that's the fight to make. That's a sick fight. You have like good fights to make with every one of those guys. Asu Amabayev coming off a win against Perez. Asu Amabayev is fighting Brendan Moreno next. That's a phenomenal fight. He's entering the top 10 after getting smoked by Manel Kape. So he's on a comeback, and is he going to beat Brendan Moreno? Maybe, You have Amir Albazi, who's extremely uninteresting here, but to be fair, the flyweight division is getting stacked now. Like, that top 10 is very stacked. It's a very good division at this point. Next, I have the lightweight division. Went down a couple spots these days because of the whole Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, but you still have Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, which is still going to be a good fight, and Max Holloway. You have a Max Holloway Charles Oliveira fight, which is number 2 and 3, but the title fight is 4 and 5. Make it make sense, So stupid. This is disgusting that Max Holloway isn't a part of that title fight. But anyhow, you still have Arman Tsarukyan, who's very interesting. Charles Oliveira coming off a win. Max Holloway coming off a big win against Dustin Poirier, who's out the rankings now. Justin Gaethje coming off the Fiziev win. Paddy Pimblett, who's a prospect. Dan Hooker's uninteresting, but always there for a fight. So against BSD, I think that's going to be pretty cool. Gamrot, not that interesting. BSD is a very interesting prospect. Fiziev, we'll see if he's make it or break it next. He's going to have a couple. He's fighting. Oh, they match him up with Rufi, which is a horrendous matchmaking in terms of, Fiziev fighting down the rankings right now is insane. But Moicano, Benil Dariush, Michael Chandler, this is, completely uninteresting. Fiziev is almost completely uninteresting because now he's, 35 and they're matching him up down the rankings, even though he's off a win. Manuel Torres is powerful and he's interesting because he's going, he's up in the rankings now. And I think he's going to starch a couple of these people. For sure, I think Manuel Torres versus Matthias Gamrot could be a very sick fight. So we'll have that. And Topuria as a champion, when Topuria fights and he's not dealing with his family BS, always a sick fighter to watch. The energy he has, everything, a generational fighter. Next, I think this is the top 3 now. The second best division, the number 2 spot goes to the bantamweight division. What a division, guy. We have Peter Yan as one of the most skilled champion in UFC history. Merab Dvalishvili used to be the top champion who's beaten every single guy. And he's going to challenge next again. So that's going to be fire trilogy between those guys. We have Umar Nurmagomedov, who's still getting better, who's the protege of Khabib, mythical fighter. Sean O'Malley, phenomenal striker. Not that bad anti-wrestling again when he's fighting normal humans. Corey Sandhagen, who's an absolute crafter, a phenomenal fighter who's you know, a guy who's like, fights like water, Bruce Lee, Sung Yadong, who's an absolutely phenomenal striker, fighting in Sean O'Malley. That's going to be fireworks. Davison Figueiredo's getting old, so it is what it is. Ayman Zahabi's like a 36, 38, I don't remember, like super old prospect, and he's going to get starched his next fight, I'm pretty certain. But we'll see. I think he's going to fight Corey Sandhagen. We have Marlon Vera, who's fairly uninteresting, but always dangerous. Mario Bautista, who's a very good prospect, did fairly okay against Umar in the end, and we'll see where that goes. I think he's going to be a future top 5 fighter for sure. He's fighting Vinicius Oliveira next, which is phenomenal. David Martinez, who's the guy who beat Rob Font, and we haven't heard about that guy or anything. He's got like a free rank. Peyton Talbot, who's number 11 now. Peyton Talbot, very interesting fighter as well, who people are looking at, and he's very sick to see fight now. He's throwing hands. He has very good grappling as well. This guy's a phenomenal fighter at this point. And Vinicius Oliveira, very interesting, So you have a very stacked division. Very, very stacked, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing these guys. How this division rearranges in the 2026 season of the UFC. And the best division is, drumroll, boom, welterweight. Look at this. Islam Makhachev, JDM, Shavkat, Gary, Morales, Bilal Pratis, Brady, Usman, Edwards at number 9. Edward was a top-tier fighter, and he's not washed. He's like 34 years old at this point at welterweight. That's not old. You have a guy in Leon Edward who was like a top tier fighter for this division 2-3 years ago. He was champion, literally. Bilal Muhammad, same thing, on a 2-fight losing streak now against JDM and Gary. The new age has finally appeared in this division, and that division is better than it's ever been, ever. At number 13 spot, you have Geoff Neal, who's a monster. Gilbert Burns is absolutely cooked. He should be under Geoff Neal. Gabriel Bonfim is a prospect. Joaquin Buckley also in his prospect. They've both lost in this division, but they're like younger fighter who are still in their prime and only getting better. Leon Edwards on a downward spiral, but he's still an okay skilled fighter, so it's a good way to know who's a world beater. If you absolutely smoke Leon, then we know you're sick. Kamaru Usman still got it. He might get the next title shot. Sean Brady, who has top tier potential. He's a deer in headlight on the feet, but gosh, does he have great grappling. So a guy with a skill set, an extremely diverse skill set. Next, you have Carlos Pratis, a one-shot powerhouse, one-shot KO guy. You have Bilal Muhammad, who was the champion like 2 years ago, and now all of the new guys are whooping him. So it's kind of showing you that the new dogs are there. Michael Morales, do I even need to say anything? The guy's an absolute monster. Ian Machado Gary, bro, this guy's always winning now. He only lost to Shavkat. Shavkat, Rakhmonov. Monster is just inactive, but talking about a top tier fighter as well. JDM just fought for the belt. You're looking at a very interesting division, and I can't wait to see what's next 2026. So this is it. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your favorite division is in the UFC right now.